time whenever I talk to my man Keyshawn because he always gets upset at me about the Lakers. But that's
Yeah,
okay.
I don't get. So Tim, I'm gonna say something here.
Yeah, what do you got, boss?
Don't say upset. Say disappointed.
Yeah, he refused.
Fair.
He claims he's never been in an argument. He's never had a debate. He's never been upset.
That's fair.
No,
That's
we
fair,
have-
Key.
We communicate and we have conversation.
We always do that. I always
Yeah.
appreciate them too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Which is going to be the best first round series, Tim?
I think it's going to be Cavs Knicks. I'm really excited. I think there's a bunch of first round series that are going to be good. I think Keys Lakers Grizzlies series should be a lot of fun. I think Warriors Kings is going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited though to see Cavs Knicks. I really think it's got a chance to be one of the best series in the first round I've seen in a long time. I think it's a true toss up series. We say that a lot. Like you don't really know who's going to win, even though you kind of do. In this one, I genuinely am not sure who's going to win. It might really come down to the state of Julius Randle's ankle as you see him, making moves here. Julius is dealing with a sprained ankle for the last couple weeks. We'll see if he's ready to go for game one tomorrow. But I think this one could go either way. Really compelling matchup. Donovan Mitchell back at the Garden. I'm excited to see how it goes.
Isn't in a series like this though, Key and Adam? Right? Isn't the history of the league that in these kind of series, team with the best player wins? Wouldn't that be the Cavs because of Donovan Mitchell? As great as Brunson's been,
Donovan Mitchell is the best player, but I think the gap isn't that big with the Knicks guys. And the Knicks have so much more depth than the Cavs that this might be one of those scenarios where it does favor the team that's got a little more depth. Because really, Cleveland's a 4-player team. After that, there's a ton of question marks. Knicks go 8 or 9 guys deep, and the trade of Josh Hart, him and Emmanuel Quickley have been probably the best bench duo in the league by a significant amount this year. And I think they've got a chance to swing this series in New York's favor.
You know what, Tim? You mentioned Donovan Mitchell, and I was going to ask you, how does the hype behind, because I like all that when it comes to playoff time, the storyline.
Yep.
How does the hype factor into going back to the Garden, but also the Knicks not really pursuing Donovan Mitchell at the level in which they probably should have in most people's eyes?
Well, look, I mean, that's going to be obviously a huge storyline in the series, right, Key? I mean, you look at the way this is playing out. You've got Donovan Mitchell coming back to the Garden. The 2 games here in New York this year were both pretty awesome games, went down to the wire. Knicks ended up winning them both. Knicks won 3 out of 4 in the season series between the teams, and it's going to be a huge storyline. I mean, we've seen Stephen A. on TV talking about how terrible it's going to be if Donovan Mitchell beats the Knicks in the playoffs, and certainly if the Cavs come out, and to Max's point, if Donovan Mitchell's the best player in this series and the Knicks win this, or the Cavs win this thing in 5 games, there's going to be a lot of chatter about should the Knicks have gone after him harder last summer? What does it mean for their team going forward? I mean, that's certainly going to be one of the big storylines going into this series is just how well he plays and whether he's good enough to get the Cavs over the line.
Well, let's see if you will converse. How did you put it, Key? You don't argue, you communicate. Let's see how you and Key communicate about this one. Tim Bontemps, can the Lakers make a deep postseason run?
I don't think they can make a deep postseason run. I think they have a chance to win this series against Memphis, though I think they need a few things to go their way. I just think there's too many things working against this Laker team. You've got the potential injury issues with LeBron and AD. You've got the wear and tear on LeBron in particular. We saw how tired he was at the end of that Minnesota game. He had to expend so much energy just to beat the Wolves in that game on Tuesday night. And I just still don't like the supporting cast and depth around these guys. I mean, D'Angelo Russell was a non-factor in that game on Tuesday. Malik Beasley's very streaky. Even Jared Vanderbilt, who's a really nice player, is an offensive liability. You saw Minnesota take advantage of that. So I just don't think this group has enough as constituted to make a deep run. But I do think if things break the right way, they can win this series against Memphis, which, given where the Lakers were a couple months ago, the fact we're even talking about them potentially winning a first-round series, I think, is a pretty significant change.
Well, see, that's the reason you and we communicate differently. we have our different views on things, and one of the things that you brought up is the durability of whatnot. Yes, that is real. That is a real issue with Anthony Davis, and that is a real issue with an older LeBron James. Mm-hmm. But as I like to tell Max, what if? Because we live in the what-if business.
Sure.
What if they do stay healthy? You got 2 of the top players in the NBA and LeBron James, which is still one of the top 6 players in the NBA. You got Anthony Davis on any given night. He could be the top player in the NBA. And then the surrounding cast. Yes, D'Angelo Russell did struggle to some degree against Minnesota when you looked at that situation. But Anthony Edwards is focused in on the defense because the offensive side were not working for him. He is a bigger player. So sometimes those sort of things work in your favor and against you if you're D'Angelo Russell. Well, you're not going to see that against Minnesota. Then you say Malik Beasley is streaky at times. What if he isn't? What if he's not streaky?
Or he's streaking in the right way.
Well,
Right?
I mean,
He's
if he's
streaky
stre-
in
if
the
he's-
right way.
I mean, sure. I mean, yes, we could do a lot of ifs, ands, or buts, Key. I mean, I
But
guess
that's
here's
what you just did
Well-
without saying if, ands, and buts.
Well, look, here's the bottom line for me, right? The Lakers, I think if you ask me, can the Lakers win this series? I would say yes, they can win this
Yes.
series. Can the Lakers win a second round series against Golden State? I think there's a smaller chance of that, but in theory, they could, right? But they're going to be the underdog, realistically, in every
Yeah.
series they play.
Absolutely.
So to
That's
say,
okay.
right, so could they win
You're
each
playing
of these
the
series?
odds.
Yeah, like it's the same thing as could the Sixers win a title? Sure, the Sixers could win a title. They're also underdogs against Boston in the second round. They're going to be underdogs if they win that series against Milwaukee in the conference finals, right? So could the Sixers win a title? Yes, but the chances of that are not very good because they're going to have to win two
What do
series
you
they're not
think
supposed
about
to win.
what do you think about the defensive side of the floor for the Lakers being one of the top defensive teams coming into the first round of the
Let me
playoffs?
give you. So here to me is the. Let me be a Lakers optimist for a minute. Here's
Yes,
the
thank
path
you.
for the Lakers to win this series. They need to control the paint. Anthony Davis needs to be the best player in the series, I think, by a significant amount. They need to attack Jaren Jackson Jr. and get him into foul trouble and get him off the court because we know Steven Adams and Brandon Clark, that could be a huge factor. One really important guy to watch on the Memphis side is Xavier Tillman. I expect he will start, and I think he will guard AD a lot of the time, so Jaren doesn't have to guard AD as much and stay out of foul trouble, hopefully from a Memphis standpoint. And the other thing they need to do is get Dillon Brooks on tilt a little bit. We saw in the Golden State series last year, Dillon Brooks basically shot Memphis out of the series. And in the 3 games against the Lakers this year, he was 11 for 45 from the field. He was 6 for 20 from 3. In the 3 games against the Lakers this season, Jaren Jackson had 15 fouls in 96 minutes. If they can foul Jaren Jackson out or get him on the bench in foul trouble, and they can go at Dillon Brooks and get him off his game, the Lakers have a path to winning the series. But I still think if you look overall, Memphis has more talent, more athleticism, more depth, and I think they should win this series. But there is a path for Lakers to do it.
Tim.
Tim Bontemps. Go. You want to go ahead?
Well, I wanted to follow up about the Lakers before we
ahead.
moved off it. Because Tim and I have done this on this just in, 2 p.m. Eastern, ESPN, but we haven't done this on this show. Tim,
Yes.
if I were to tell you before a season started, postseason started, I'm giving you no information about who's on what team in the league. I'm just saying this about a certain team. LeBron and AD. LeBron's playing. AD is healthy. They have the number 1 defense in the league and competent shooting around them. You cannot, could you say, no, that team couldn't win a championship? It sounds like a team that very much could win a championship. That's the Lakers.
I am not, as the Lakers have had a good defense since the All-Star break. I think the number 1 rating is a little inflated by both their schedule and opponent three-point shooting. So I think it's a good defense.
Go to top 5 defense.
No, they have a good defense for sure. The other issue is I just don't trust their offense. You saw in that game against Minnesota, I don't think they have competent shooting overall.
Competent?
I really don't.
D'Angelo Russell, Malik Beasley.
They have 2.
And I'm missing someone else. Even guy for his size, Hachimura, for considering his position.
I just don't think when you're talking about playoff level caliber play, I just don't think at the end of the day, if you're relying on D'Angelo Russell and Malik Beasley to get you where you need to go, I just don't think you're good enough. I just don't think ultimately you are.
All right, there.
Yeah, I was gonna reset your name, but because you said that, I'm not gonna reset your name. ESPN NBA reporter joining us now, Tim Bontemps, ESPN NBA reporter joining us on Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max. How much pressure, Tim, is on Kevin Durant to win a title with the Suns this year?
So Max and I talked about this yesterday. I think there's pressure on the Suns to win because they traded everything they've ever had to get Kevin Durant. And also, let's be honest, the Phoenix Suns have been an incredibly successful organization for decades. I think they have the highest winning percentage of any team that's never won a championship. They've done everything but win a title in Phoenix. So I think there's real pressure on the Suns to win because I think the future with the amount of draft picks they sent out and the age Kevin Durant is pretty high on them right away. I don't feel the same pressure as there on Durant personally because I think his legacy is already sort of secure, while this would obviously help it. And I think if you look at the fact that they've only played 8 games together, there's a pretty easy built-in excuse for this team if they don't win, right?
Well,
which is he was out until April 1st. He comes back. We've basically never seen a team win in this kind of circumstance before. They essentially start the season on April 1st. And I think if you're him, you say, hey, look, if we come back next year, we have everybody healthy, we add some depth pieces, we're going to be the favorites to win the West. So I don't think the pressure is there in the same way on him as there is, frankly, on, say, Nikola Jokic, who, if you look at Denver, they have the best record in the West. They're a dominant home court team. We talk about how wide open the West is.
But you're the only one who thinks they're going to win the chip, though. Like most people, most people are like, I ain't going to.
Well, no, but I don't think they're going to win the chip. But if they don't win it this year, then to me, you look at Nikola Jokic and say you're never going to win, right?
Yeah,
which is a different thing than for Durant. We're like, they just you just showed up there.
Right. Watch what I do to you right here, though.
Okay, what do we got?
How important is it for Kevin Durant to beat the Golden State Warriors?
Well, look, as I said yesterday when me and Max were talking about this, sign me up for Warriors Suns in the West Finals on ESPN. Give me that. Give me 7 games of Kevin Durant against Steph Curry. I mean, look, it would certainly be a pretty juicy series if we get Draymond Green and Chris Paul going at it. We get Kevin Durant and Steph Curry going at it. We get Klay Thompson and Devin Booker going at it. I mean, these teams already don't like each other much. We saw Klay doing the four fingers thing earlier this year. And I think if that series happens, there would be pressure to win that series in particular because of all the history there.
So if he doesn't win that series, then what?
Well, I mean, he's still one of the best players of all time. I mean, I don't think a lot changes, but I do think that would be, to me, a different level of pressure even than winning a title.
AD is not in the Michael Jordan, LeBron James conversation, and he should be. That's the thing. And if he gets by Steph this year, he might start to be in those conversations, and if he doesn't, he never will. That's how I'm framing this whole story. Tim Bontemps, ESPN NBA reporter. You can see him across various ESPN platforms.
Yeah.
Such hit shows like
This just in,
yes.
2 p.m. Eastern.
Yes.
Da-da-da-da.
Yeah, the da-da-da is very important. Handsome host. Thank you, Tim.
Thanks, guys.
The NBA playoffs are on ESPN Radio. Tune in tomorrow night as the Cavs host the Knicks, presented by Indeed. Coverage begins at 5:30 p.m. Eastern on most ESPN radio stations and on Sirius XM Channel 80. Which first-round match?